Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to the live DY broadcast. So I'm hoping you all got plenty of questions. You got me here for an hour, so you can ask me whatever you want, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. Okay, so I got one. Sorry, I can't pronounce your name properly. Hambasenu Doru Catalin. Anyway, that's a tough one. Guess you're from Eastern Europe somewhere by that name. And he's just asking me how's life in Spain. So life in Spain is great. I live in Marbella, which is on Costa del Sol, south coast of Spain, so beautiful weather, and it's pretty much an international community, a lot of British here, so it's not necessary to even speak Spanish. There's so many British people here, everyone speaks English, which is making me a bit lazy. I'm learning a bit of Spanish, but not enough, I'm afraid, to, I don't get enough practice because everyone speaks English, so. Yeah, I love it here. It's great. We got beach. I live by the beach. We got mountains, beautiful weather, good food, and nice relaxed atmosphere. So yeah, I'm loving it here, man. It's, I guess I could live pretty much anywhere in the world, and I choose here. So yeah, it must be great, right? All right. Well, anyway, I can't remember the name, but I saw that somebody was asking me what's the best pre-workout. So the best pre-workout is the one I just made with DY Nutrition, Blood and Guts. It's got super high levels of citrulline in there for pump. It's got high levels of beta-alanine in there to delay and fatigue, and moderate amounts of stimulants from green tea and caffeine. And yeah, it's very popular. We released it in April, and everyone that's tried it is raving about it. So give it a try. Blood and Guts is the pre-workout. Sorry, I didn't know the name of the guy that asked the question. So Steve Smith, you're asking about backstage pumping up and intensity. I never feel like I've pumped up enough backstage. Well, Steve Smith. To be honest with you, you know, I used to say this to people when I saw them running around frantically backstage, pumping up and so on. If you ain't ready at this point, mate, you ain't going to be ready. So I wouldn't worry too much about the pumping up backstage. I would worry more about the previous 12 months leading up to that competition, and make sure you're doing everything right with your training and nutrition and so on, so that you're in best shape. And pumping up backstage, I probably did like 10 minutes or so, and I didn't get a really great pump anyway, because you're pretty flat and depleted at the contest. So just to reiterate, I wouldn't be worrying too much about the pumping up backstage, mate. Worry about the workouts every day that you're doing leading up to that contest, because that's what's going to build your physique, not the pump up backstage. All right. John Studley, how have you adjusted from professional bodybuilding to normal life? Well, that was a long process. professional bodybuilding or bodybuilding. I mean, that's what I did. That's what I knew, and I totally dedicated my life to that, to, you know, the exception of anything else that was going on. So it was probably harder for me than somebody else because I really had no other interests, no hobbies, no social life. I pretty much cut myself off from everything and everybody just to do this thing that I was doing and totally give all my energy to it. So it was a huge shock when I basically retired through injury. So it was not something planned and calculated, which is what I like to do. I'm very strategic in everything I did, all the contests I competed in and all the training I did. And it was all logged and planned and everything like that. And my retirement wasn't. It was by an injury, so my hand was forced somewhat. So it was a big shock. I really lost my role in life, I think, and my place. And it took me a long time to find that back. And I think I would like to say I'm very well adjusted now. You know, instead of thinking, wow, you know, woe is me, I can't do this thing that I did for so long and I love doing and everything. Well, there's a whole world out there of things that you can do now that you couldn't do before when you were competing and bodybuilding because your lifestyle was so restricted. So I enjoy much more relaxed time now with family and friends and travel and you know, I'm into a lot of different things apart from bodybuilding. I'm into yoga now, do a couple of times a week. I do mountain biking here in the mountains, which is beautiful, great cardio. Weight training, bodybuilding, I can't really do now because I have two pretty bad shoulder injuries that I don't want to get worse. So I do some very light kind of integration training, core training, stuff like that. So everything I do is functional now. I don't need huge muscles at this stage of my life to do the things that I'm doing, and I'm not competing. So I like to stay in shape, stay fit, stay lean, stay healthy. Those are my goals now. My goals are not bodybuilding related. So, okay. Hope that answers your question, John. Anthony Lowe, how often do I train these days? Well, with weights, maybe once a week, very light. Integration training, core training, learning to use the body as a unit, whereas in bodybuilding we learn to isolate individual muscles, and your body doesn't function like in the real life situations. The whole body works as a unit, and in bodybuilding we don't do that. So I've kind of had to learn, strengthen the core, get everything to work together, so it's functional. So I do 1 or 2 times in the gym functional stuff. I do twice a week yoga. I do twice a week cardio or biking or something. So some days I go swimming, some days I go walking. So I don't have an exact schedule, but that's about it as far as my training goes. So still very passionate about keeping in shape, keeping my cardiovascular fitness, keeping my mobility, my flexibility, all those things that you can kind of lose through bodybuilding training, and they're more important to me now than having huge muscle mass. So I don't have the muscles, but I get the brain, and I can tell you how to get muscles if you want to. So I didn't lose that. Marcos Pozo, if I'm a regular person, is it better to go to the gym and do a lot of weight and go to failure? Well, you know, I don't know you, Marco. I don't know what your goals are. So it depends on your goals, what you want to achieve. If you want to achieve bodybuilding results, maximum muscle mass, then absolutely high intense training, brief, strict, controlled to failure, controlling the negative, holding the contractions, getting your mind inside the muscle and really pushing it to failure in a safe way. Minimal sets, no more than 45 minutes in the gym, 3 times a week. That's what I'd recommend to most people if they're after bodybuilding results, gaining muscle mass, and so on. If you have different goals, then it would be different advice, but I'm assuming you're asking me about bodybuilding, so that would be my answer. Let's see. Dan Inaku, do I miss the bodybuilding glory days? It was quite a rush to get on the stage and everything like that. Yeah, huge. and you got all these people cheering for you. Not just the competitions. I did a lot of guest posing around the world, and you know, fanatical reactions that I got. Been all around the world, around the United States. Been to Japan, Australia, all over Europe. Been to Russia, and yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, I guess you miss that, but then I have so much more. I got the whole world, and I got time in my hands to do things that I want to do the traveling, try other activities and other sports and so on that I was kind of, you know, I felt I couldn't do before. So you lose something, you gain something, you know. Now I feel like the most relaxed and happiest I've been in my life. I don't think I was particularly happy when I was bodybuilding because I was just so driven in a tunnel. I didn't really allow myself to relax too much. Now I can. So I take the positive always. There's always a positive and a negative in any situation that you look for. So I'm trying to look for the positive. Okay, here's an interesting one from Alexandra Vika. Would you still swear to the leg press versus the squat for leg size in general? So when I started bodybuilding, every book I read, every magazine said that you can't get good legs without squatting. And Tom Platz was like a hero of mine, and Tom Platz was also a huge advocate of squatting. So I was doing the squats in the gym, everyone was doing squats. But I got an injury on my right hip from squatting. And I was going like, you know, Tom Platz, like ass on the floor. I even had the special weightlifting shoes and all that stuff like Tom Platz because he was my hero. Doing heavy squats. I got very good development pretty quick. If you look at my first contest, after 18 months, my legs were looking pretty like, they're world class actually. I did compete in a world championships 1 week after my novice competition, which is an interesting story. But anyway, I'm digressing. You're asking me about squats. So squats are a good leg exercise or great, depending on your structure. If you can squat like Tom Platz, because he's quite short and his upper body is not very long, so when he squats, the majority of the stress, the majority of the lift is doing with his quads. Whereas somebody like myself, it's taller, I'll be leaning forward more, so I'll be using more glutes, more lower back, and I had an injury, so I was kind of forced by the injury to try and do other things. So I started squatting on a Smith machine. Sometimes squat on a Smith machine, sometimes leg press, and always pre-exhausted by leg extensions first, and followed by usually hack squats. So I stopped squatting in, I think, around 88, 89 after I won my British Championship and got my pro card. And I was forced really to do it, and then doing the other exercises, I got better leg development because I felt like I could really isolate. With a Smith machine squat and a hack squat, I could really isolate, and leg press I could go heavy without any risk to my lower back. So those exercises, I got better results, and people that I train as well, generally I don't do free weight squats with them unless there's a reason to, and they get great results. So you know, the lesson is listen to your body. If you're doing squats and it's working great for you, then, well, you know, continue. If they're not, then try something else. The same with bench press. I was not a big believer in bench press either. So that answers that, hopefully. What supplement? This is from Brian Leto. What supplement will have you looking good in the 40s to 60s? What is one supplement you need to make sure you're getting to maintain muscle mass? All right, so you're kind of asking for a one supplement answer here, which usually is not that simple because you need a variety of supplements. But maintaining muscle mass, obviously you need to get adequate protein. So if you're not able to do that through your regular diet of, you know, sources of chicken, beef, eggs, and so on, then I would highly recommend a protein supplement. And that's something I've always taken really, because I found it very hard to get enough protein from food. And also, when I was younger, I was working, I was busy, so I didn't have time to eat always. And that's where a protein supplement comes in. You know, it's convenient and it's a good quality protein. So we have two DY Nutrition. We have the Isolate and the Whey. So have a look at those. The flavors are great. The quality is great. Another thing you might want to look into, and this is pretty much for everybody, it's helping maintain muscle mass, but also enhancing your immune system, your digestive system, and that is glutamine. I mean, there's so much research on glutamine. Just click and have a read anywhere about glutamine. I would recommend 10 to 20 grams of glutamine a day. In the morning when you wake up, before you eat, mix 10 grams with water, and after training, 10 grams with water. That's going to help your muscle mass, going to keep you healthier, it's going to enhance your immune system, and as I said, go do a little search on glutamine. It's very well established and a lot of research out there. All right, let's see what we got coming up. Well, some people ask me about steroids, but I'm not really here to tell you how to take steroids, guys. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there that I've already spoken about steroids, so I don't want to make this a steroid seminar. Nothing to hide, but Tony Fisher, thank you, sir. You purchased my book From the Shadow, limited edition number 327. Wanted to say it was a great book, and thanks for all the insights. So those of you who don't know, I've got my book out, From the Shadow, which is an autobiography. So it's all about my life as a child, you know, growing up, getting into bodybuilding. So you can get an insight into Dorian Yates' life and the person, and perhaps you can understand better where the motivation came from for me to be Mr. Olympia and my background and everything like that. FromTheShadow.com, you can get that book at the moment. We're hoping it will be on Amazon soon. Right now it's just limited edition copies, so if you want to check that out. Marco Kohek, what do you think about calorie intake through the week? Do you keep the same amount every day, or do you cut down on days that you're not in the gym? I advise keeping it pretty much the same, but on a training day, I would have a post-workout drink, some simple carbs with some whey isolate right after training. So that would probably be like maybe like 300 calories or so. So on the days that you're not training, then you don't need to take your post-workout, and that way it pretty much works out. If I was getting ready for a contest, I might vary it a little bit more, because you don't want your body to get kind of used to low calories and then start slowing down. So generally for getting ready for a contest, I have one day a week where I put my calories up just to normal levels and give the body a break and metabolism a break so it doesn't slow down so quickly. And I may, you know, let's say in a week that if I had an average of 3,000 calories, I might do 2,500 one day, 3,000 the next day, and 3,500 the next day. So it you know, it varies, but you're averaging 3,000 in this case. So more variety. What's this? Messages are moving so quick, guys. I'm missing a lot of them. Alex Whitaker would like to know, how do you train to failure without a partner? Well, you can train to failure without a partner on most things, because failure is just when you can't move the bar anymore. So let's say you're doing standing curls or lateral raises or something like this. You can just go to the point where you can't do any more reps, and then maybe you can do a couple of partial reps at the end. Where it gets tricky is if you don't have a training partner. On some exercises, there's a safety issue. For instance, a bench press or something like that with the free weights. I've seen some fools on the internet who set their cameras up to film themselves doing a bench press alone, and then they get stuck with that thing on the neck, and you know, that's very dangerous. People have died doing that. Same thing with a leg press. You don't want to get stuck with a 1,000-pound leg press in the bottom position and there's no one around. So some exercises you need somebody there just for safety reasons. If you can't do that, then I would say train on machines where it's not an issue. If you fail, you just put it down and there's no risk. So I did train on my own, but if I did stuff like a squat or a bench press, I would just grab somebody in the gym and ask them to just watch me for safety reasons. If you don't have that, then you pretty much, risky exercises like bench press or squat or leg press, you're going to have to do it, near to failure, or work on a machine where there's safety. Somebody's a joker here. Martin Burford, I know who you are, from UK. Would I ever open another gym in Marbella? No, I definitely wouldn't. That's a long, painful story, which I don't really want to go into. But yeah, I like to go to the gym and train in the gym, but I'm not very interested in opening another gym. It's a tough business, and you got to be there all day, and I've got other things going on. So probably not. We have a franchise gym in China, and a friend of mine runs DY Gym, but I'm not interested in actually opening them myself. Derek Barber, am I still in contact with any of the pros from the olden golden days? Not really. I mean, we see each other sometimes at shows and FIBO and Body Power and stuff like that. So the only one that I'm really in regular touch with, and that I would say we've got an ongoing friendship, is Chris Cormier. We're friends. He's come to stay in my house and train with me, and we've been, just to hang out and stuff like that. So me and Chris are very good friends, keep in touch. But Flex and Sean and the guys like that, I see him around. Kevin Lavrone, I'm more in touch because me and Kevin, we've done some appearances together in Europe and so on, and the manager of my supplement company is friends with Kevin's people, so we have a bit more contact these days. But golden days they were, and I have great respect for everybody that was up on that stage, and they're all, great bodybuilders in their own right, and all got their own personality and their own following and so on, which is, I don't really see that these days. I don't know, guys don't seem to have too much character. We're all different characters, and love or hate, I think it was more interesting when it was like that. Now everybody seems to be a bit politically correct and generic, so I think that's missing these days. I got one from Darren Creetman. How beneficial do you feel the stretching has been as you're now in the post-bodybuilding part of your life and yoga and so on? I think stretching is very important. I was probably one of the only bodybuilders who was stretching, and I used to do a lot of stretching before quads, hurdler stretch and hamstring stretch and all that stuff, because Tom Platz used to do it, so I was doing it. So I was probably doing more stretching and warm-up than the average bodybuilder, but so like quads and hamstrings, I was fairly flexible when I started doing yoga, but where I was very weak was the mobility and the ability to turn and stuff like that, because I never done it. I mean, everything you do is in a straight line, so I was very stiff on the turning stuff and absolutely terrible on balance. I mean, you don't have to balance when you got 600 pounds on the back doing a squat or a deadlift or something, just using raw power. So my balance was actually terrible. Now it's kind of pretty decent. It's okay. So that's why I'm enjoying yoga. I mean, you feel great that your body's loose. It feels like somehow like the energy is flowing around your body more efficiently. You feel lighter. You feel like you can move better. And, from a spiritual aspect as well, it seems to really kind of raise your vibration, raise your energy, and you feel better. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying the yoga. I'm loving the yoga at the moment. Probably would have helped with my mobility on the posing. A lot of poses I could do when I was an amateur, I couldn't do as a pro, just because the muscle mass and the mobility had decreased. I kind of stopped doing the twisting poses and so on. So, yeah, I think it would have been a good addition. But I don't know how the young 30-year-old Dorian Yates would have reacted to that suggestion. I probably thought there's some gay stuff, yoga, something like women do, or something. What the hell is that going to do for me? But you live and learn. All right, see what we got. Nicholas Gilbert, I think it is, just disappearing from my screen. He's asking me, do I think my physique improved over the years? Because some people like my physique when it was lighter, kind of Night of Champions and early pro days, compared to the later days when I had more muscle mass. Well, it's my answer might seem strange, but it's like there's two ways you could look at this. If I look at all my pictures of my physique and I say, wow, that's kind of, if I could do that without, I can't train now, but if I could click my fingers and say, well, that physique, I really liked my physique in those early days as well, because the waist was smaller, the physique was very tight and symmetrical. So, for everyday use, that was probably great. But you're in a competition, so I wanted to push it more with the mass and the size and kind of overtake everybody else. And that's what I did. But it's because it's a competition. And that's the criteria that you need to win the competition. But it probably looked a bit nicer and more aesthetic pre that area. But as far as competitive bodybuilding goes, I would say 93 or 95, that was the best competitive physique. But I do like the look of the earlier physique, so I get it, what people are saying there. But you do what you do to win the contest. Lisa Ann Brown, what's your thoughts on the current Mr. Universe, I guess you mean professional bodybuilders? I think they look bloated compared to the good old days. Well, that's very observant of you, Lisa Ann Brown, because so do I. Not really sure why, but it just seems like the standard on the conditioning is way, way lower now than it was back then. The famous black and white pictures that people may have seen that were taken in '93 of me in the gym, the raw black and white pictures. I mean, I was 6 weeks out from the contest there, and I still came down another 15 pounds. And that condition on those black and white photos, I think that runs all over the condition that guys go on stage now. So, maybe it would have been easier. I just diet for a few weeks and go on stage. That's what it looks like they're doing now. But I set the bar in the '90s with the mass and with the condition, so everybody had to chase that. So everybody was raising their game. If you look at all the guys from the '90s, everyone was in tremendous shape because you had to be. Now you don't have to be, so I guess that's why they're not. And a lot of things they do in the preparation and so on, I think the muscle doesn't have the separation and the quality. They're probably carrying a lot of intramuscular body fat and maybe fat around the internal organs and so on, so the waist is bloated. I think that's what's going on. Like you see a piece of steak in the butchers, it can be nice and red and just pure lean muscle, or you got the one with all the marbling and all the white fat tissue. So yeah, maybe it's bigger, but you don't have the quality of separation. Look at the guys from the '80s and the '90s. You can see every little fiber there. You just don't see that anymore. Anyway, Lisa Ann, hope that's answered your question. Can't see the name, but somebody's asking me if I'm ever visiting India. Well, I have visited India already a few times. End of the '90s, I went one time to do a tour around, and I've been about 7 or 8 years ago. And I do believe I will be there in January. So in January, in the new year, we're planning a tour in India with the Shadow line, DY Nutrition, that's just been launched down there. So I can't give you any more than that. So keep your eyes out for me down in India. I'll be down there in January. So look forward to meeting everybody there in January. Abran Suf, how can HIT be applied to a natural bodybuilder? Well, HIT training can be applied to anybody. And this is very basically the system. You're going into the gym, you're training with intensity, you're putting more stress on the muscle than it's used to. And then you're going to rest and you're going to recover before you go back to the gym again. So it's just a matter of how much recovery do you need? And that will vary from one person to another. Natural metabolism. Some people recover more quickly than other people. Just like if I lie out in the sun too long, I'll burn. My wife won't, because she's got different skin to me. So she handles that stress better than me. That's my point. So weight training, some people will recover more quickly than others. In any case, and then if you're taking anabolic steroids, this is going to enhance your recovery ability on top of that. So the training still applies to anybody. The question is, how long do you need to recover between the workouts? And that's something you've got to kind of get feedback on yourself. I always tell people, look, I was a professional bodybuilder. I had all day to myself. I had all my meals on time. I slept 2 hours every afternoon. I slept 8 hours every night. And I was taking steroids, and I had favorable genetics for bodybuilding, and was only training 4 times a week. So if you're natural and you've got a job, you need to be training less, obviously. You don't get any medals for how often you go to the gym. You should be going there to get results. So if you can get results training twice a week, then go twice a week. So do a workout, split your body into probably 3 different workouts, and try to do 3 workouts a week. If that's not working, if you're not recovering, then space it out a little bit more. Train 3 times every 9 days, and so on and so on. It's very important that you recover. Okay. All right. Chris Leyland, hi Dorian, your hard grainy look was down to your training style, or was that just how you turned out? Well, there may be some genetic part of that, but I think the main thing is that I was training heavy, consistently heavy, 6 to 8 reps on most upper body, 10 to 12 reps on legs, and I was just training heavy all the time, and my muscles were muscle fiber. You can see the muscle fibers grew and they were thicker, and so you've got that dense look. You've got a different look to a body that trains heavy to a body that trains lighter and does more reps and pushes more blood into the muscle. It's a different look. So that's why I look much more dense than the people on stage I was standing next to, because they were doing higher reps, more pumping. I was doing lower reps, heavy training, and that was consistently for years and years and years. Look at Ronnie Coleman's physique, it's dense. Look at Branch Warren's physique, it's dense. Look at some of the other guys, Dexter Jackson or Flex Wheeler, they don't really have that look. So I believe it's down to the heavy training. I have a message from Lorelei Grace. How does being married change your focus? Because her husband's a bodybuilder. Well, I was married during my career, and I think it's helpful if you've got a partner that understands what you're doing and is going to be supportive of you. That probably applies to anything that you're trying to do that's challenging. You need some support. So my wife was very supportive. She understood what I was doing. So, and it gives you that stability. If you're single and you're out looking for a girl every night, and it's cutting into recovery time, and so on. So I think marriage is great for a bodybuilder, or having a partner that's supportive. You don't have to be married. That's just a legal contract, But what I'm saying is, you've got a partner that supports you, then of course it's helpful. Will men's and classic physique start taking over bodybuilding stages? Are you guys getting lazy? Trey Maynor is the question. Well, I'm not getting lazy, man. I retired 20 years ago, so don't blame me if the guys are getting lazy. Will the men's physique and classic physique take over bodybuilding eventually? I actually think that it will, yeah. I went to the Mr. Olympia last year and I saw the classic physique there. And I enjoyed watching that more than the bodybuilding because the guys had separation, they had good condition, and the posing presentation was good. I mean, they used to judge the posing round when I competed, so you had to make some effort to put on an entertaining routine and so on. Now the guys just walk up and down the stage, doing a few musculars, doing this to the crowd. It's fucking boring, guys. Yeah. So it was refreshing to see some good posing routines and some good conditioning. So I'm a fan of the classic physique, although that might sound strange. But yeah, it looks like the guys are putting the work in and they're coming in shape. So and more people want to look like that. The pro bodybuilders now, they look too bloated and it's not a good look, and most people don't look like that. So if they're not careful, it'll go the way of the Miss Olympia, where there's no interest and there's no money and there's no contest anymore. So that may be a little while off, but I can see the other classes will get more popular. Max Kiner is 1998 Kevin Levrone version against Phil Heath today. That would be tough, man, but I'd probably go with Kevin because Kevin's bigger and he looked great in those days, brought in great conditioning and so on. So I would probably go with Kevin on that one. Kassif Shagir Ahmed, sorry mate if I pronounced your name wrong, but you're asking me if I'm coming to the Dubai Muscle Show this year. And yes, sir, I will be there with the Shadowline D1 Nutrition, and was amazing. Great response I had last year from the friends. We had to bring in extra security. There's so many people pushing and shoving and trying to get to the front there. So yeah, absolutely, guys. I will be there in Dubai again this year. Look forward to seeing you all there. Neil Schneider, is Phil Heath's reign due to the same judges year after year? They look for the same thing. Were different judges look for different physique aspects? Well, I don't know if it's the same judges every year because I don't really know. But if you're a judge who knows bodybuilding, then you should be looking for the same things. You should be looking for the best combination of muscle size, condition, and balance. And the reason that Phil Heath is winning every year is because he's the best, really. And his competition is not, is not really great. Like it used to be back in the 90s. There was a whole lot of really good guys there. Now, the depth of the quality of standard is not that great. And Kai Green, who could have, pushed Phil, maybe he's not competing now. We got Big Ramy, but I feel he doesn't, unless he's really changed a lot, he doesn't have the separation and real quality to beat Phil yet. And there's some good guys there, but I think Phil is comfortably ahead. Mike Demakis, I trained back for 3 or 4 hours. What's your opinion on this and overtraining generally? Like, I don't know, man, you want to kill yourself or something? You train for 3 or 4 hours? What you really mean is you were in the gym for 3 or 4 hours. You didn't train for 3 or 4 hours, man. Try and come and train back with me for 3 or 4 hours. You'll be puking after 30 minutes. So you weren't training hard enough, so you won't get any results. You're just going to wear yourself down and get nowhere. So I think you need to rethink your approach, friend. Tim said we saw a lot of bodybuilders doing partial range of movement. What's your views on that? I always like to do full range of movement, work the muscle for the full range. And once you reach failure, if you don't have a training partner, then you could continue. For instance, let's say you're doing curls and you can't get a full rep. Well, you could do a half rep, a couple of half reps or a quarter rep or something like that. So you could do partial reps at the end, but no, I'm not a big fan of shortening the movements. I never did that. Randy says, I have a well-developed chest, back, arms, legs, but my stomach looks bloated. How do I get rid of this bloated belly? Well, it depends what it is, man. If it's body fat, then it's simply cutting down your calories a little bit, maybe doing a little bit more cardio exercise and slowly losing that body fat, which is, my guess is, that's what it is. You can have well-developed muscles, but if they're covered with body fat, they're not going to look very impressive. So you probably want to bring your body fat down by, I would say, work out your nutrition, work out how many calories you're on, and drop about 500 calories a day mainly from carbohydrates, and maybe drop in a half an hour of cardio a day, and it should start coming off. If you want to lose body fat, you need to lose it nice and slowly, a couple of pounds a week maximum. Lewis Adams, Dorian, if everything is on point apart from sleep, will I still gain muscle? Well, it's not ideal. You know, sleep is very, it's essential for your recovery. If you want to look into enhancing your sleep, maybe try some melatonin. You try like 10, 15 milligrams of melatonin before bedtime, maybe some GABA. That can help your sleep, and perhaps some evening meditation. Just make sure you're nice and calm. And CBD from cannabis is also great for sleep, anti-anxiety, and so on. So have a look into those things. Sleep is very important. Alan Mihalton, how did I overcome mentally the injuries like in '94 when I got the bicep tear? How did I get back into training after that? Yeah, it was very tough because it was 6 weeks before my contest and I had this severe bicep tear. So my initial reaction was, that's it, my career's over, I'm not going to be able to compete, it's only 6 weeks away, this is impossible. That lasted for about 24 hours, and then the more positive side kicked in and said, okay, so you can drop out now, or you can do the best that you can do with your training, with your nutrition and everything, and prepare for the contest. And if you really believe it's not possible, like a week before the contest or something, then you can make the decision to drop out then. So I had to avoid back training or bicep training for a couple of weeks until the inflammation went down. But after that, I could train those body parts very lightly. So I was still training. Training around it, I had to change the grip on a lot of my back exercises to more parallel grips. I had to lighten the load, but at least I was doing something to try and maintain the muscle mass. And I was keeping this thing very, very quiet as well. I was not really telling anybody exactly what the injury was or what, how severe it was, because I didn't want people to already, especially judges, already to be having a negative in their mind and looking for it. So I kind of kept it very much to myself. And yeah, I continued with my diet, did the training I could do, did the cardio, and I got to the '94 Mr. Olympia and won it. Of course, the bicep tear was damaging visually, but mainly only in one pose. And the whole stress of being injured and doing this and so on, I'm sure it affected my condition in '94, so it wasn't perhaps as good as it could be. But a week later at the Grand Prix I was back into pretty hard shape again. So it was kind of, I got it under control. But yeah, that was tough, very tough. But that's, you know, that's what being a champion is about. If it's just about doing it when it's easy, then, you know, when you find out what you're made of is when things get really tough. And that was very tough for me. And even tougher was the tricep injury in '97. But I can look back now and say, you know, I couldn't have done anything anything more in my training. I couldn't train harder. I couldn't train better. I probably could have trained maybe a little smarter and avoided injuries. We've got so much more information now on injuries and injury prevention and specialist treatments for scar tissue and all this stuff. I really didn't have it then, especially in UK. We didn't have anything. So just kind of on my own trying to manage these things. Gary Jones, do I miss the UK and my good friend Dino? Well, you know, I got good friends in the UK. Dino's one of them, and I got my son there, my daughter there, and so on. So, of course, I miss them, but it's not that far. They can come here. It's a 3-hour flight. I can go there. So that's why I chose Spain. Not, you know, it's like a cool environment, but also it's not too far away. I'm sure Hawaii is lovely, but it would be, you know, 17 hours flying back time to UK, so I wouldn't be there that much. So yeah, I miss my friends, but I don't miss the UK. No, I do not miss that shitty weather and the generally depressing atmosphere there seems to be at the moment. So no, I don't miss it. Dorian, Craig Plymouth, really struggling with the peak on my biceps. Well, let me tell you, there's nothing you can do about that, man. You cannot change your muscle shape. You can just make it bigger. That's the way it is. If you know, if it was just about the training, then there would be no weak calves on the Mr. Olympia stage. They're professional bodybuilders, and there's a lot of weak calves up there. It's not because the guys don't train them. It's because they don't have long muscle bellies. And if I knew how to get big peak biceps, mate, don't think I'd do it myself. You know, my biceps were not the best. They weren't that big and so on. I trained them hard or harder or smarter than anything else. Just genetically, they weren't that, you know, the muscle belly was not that long. It was just average. So that was probably my weakest part, and probably pecs. You know, I had to work real hard on that as well. So just make the best of what you got, man. Just make them bigger. Not going to get them more peaked. Train them intensely. Get stronger, get bigger. That's it. John Borges, how much protein did you consume off-season versus pre-contest? Exactly the same. Exactly the same. I didn't change it. I lowered the carbs and increased the energy expenditure by doing more cardio exercise. So the protein was the same. Marcus Reardon wants to know if I got any long-term health problems from using anabolics. No, fortunately, I don't. I'm in very good shape. I work with a doctor here in Spain who monitors everything from vitamin levels to hormone levels to everything. Obviously, I had to replace, you know, I'm on hormone replacement, replace the testosterone. But, you know, I think most guys in their 50s would be much better if they were doing that anyway. Your health is so much better if your testosterone is in the right place. So no, everything's good. Blood pressure's good. Heart's good. Everything's good. So happy to say thank you for asking. Okay. Paul Gilopsky, what is your tip for people with weak calves? Well, I'll be humorous and tell you what Mike Mensa used to tell people. Choose different parents. Yeah, you can make your calves better. I can give you tips, but a lot of it is down to the length of the muscle belly as far as how long can it ultimately, how big can the calves ultimately get. And it seems to be that there's a huge variance in people between how long the muscle belly is in the calf area. where in a biceps or something like that, there's not such a huge variance. You can get a guy like me. I've got very long lower legs and long muscle belly, so ultimately, ultimately, the the circumference of a muscle can never exceed the length of a muscle, because then it mechanically it wouldn't work. So that would never happen. So the longer the muscle belly is, the more ultimate potential it has for size. So you've got what you've got. So what are we going to do to try and improve them? Well, train them exactly the same as any other muscle group. There's no magic for calves. It's a muscle. You train it heavy, full range of motion, very low sets, and then you rest them. I used to do, okay, I have great calves, but when I started training, they measured 16 inches around. And when I was at my peak of being Mr. Olympia, they were 22.5 inches around. So I put 6.5 inches on my calf measurement. And I did that by training calves once a week, 3 sets. I did 1 set on the standing calf raise to warm up, 1 set to failure, total failure, and 1 set of seated calf raise to total failure. And I've trained other people with that, and they've got incredible results as well. So if you hear nonsense about calves, like you should train them more often, or you should do more reps, the stupidest thing I ever heard is you should do more reps on your calves because you walk on them all day. Right? So hold on. So you're walking on them all day, so you're doing a lot of reps anyway, so you're just going to duplicate that and hope they're going to grow? Such nonsense. You need to train them heavy, 10 to 12 reps, absolute failure, then go home and rest and eat and come back and do it again next week with more weight. Do you have any advice to increase cardio for somebody over 40 years of age? Well, I'll tell you my opinion on cardio exercise for health, for increasing your cardiovascular capacity. And I think science is now catching this. I recommend, and what I do, and I've got very low resting heart rates, below 50 in the morning. So I do interval training. So I did a bit of equipment, whether it's a cross trainer or a bike or whatever it is. Sometimes I use kettlebells, and I'll do kind of moderate for 60 seconds to 90 seconds, and then 20 to 30 seconds, absolute all out, balls out sprint, as crazy as you can go, as heavy as you can go, and you should be breathing like a trainer. And then you drop down and you do 60 to 90 seconds moderate again, and then you do this again. Do this for about 10 minutes twice a week, and you don't need to do anything else for cardiovascular fitness. It's got to be intense. You do these intense bursts, and the reason I believe in this is an excessive amount of cardio, you're getting a benefit. You're getting stronger lungs and heart, more efficient cardio, but you're also getting a negative. You're getting a lot of free radical production, and free radicals are aging your cells. So in one hand, you're getting a benefit, but in the other hand, you're getting a negative. So I want to get the benefit of a stronger heart and lungs, more efficient, without, wearing myself down with free radicals. So I recommend short bursts, interval training, a couple of times a week. Mark Ingram, sorry. Does meditation before or after workouts play any part? Well, no. As I said, I'm not doing weights now, but I meditate every day, usually in the morning. But what I used to do is not meditation, it's visualization. So I used to take, before I went to the gym, I would take 10 or 15 minutes of my time, and I would sit down. First of all, I had a training log, so I could see what I did last week, or the previous week before that, 6 months ago, whatever. I got all my workouts written down. So now I sit down and say, if I'm in a building phase, I would be like, okay, what did I do last week? Okay, I did bench over rows, 200 pounds times 8 reps. So that's what I got to beat this workout. So I'd get this information, then I would sit down and I would visualize myself going to the gym. I visualize myself doing the exercise, feeling everything, and doing that one more rep. So I've got all these goals in my mind before I go to the gym. I've rehearsed what I'm going to do. And I've locked that in. And when I go to the gym, I don't want to talk to everybody. I just want to, and I know exactly what I'm doing, what exercises first, what's my goals. There's no gray areas. I see people kind of wandering into the gym and they think, oh, what shall I do today? There's no real goal there. If you've got no real goal, man, you're not going to get far. You know, you're going to get mediocre results, not great results. So you need planning and you need goals, and visualization really, really helps in anything. Even if you're going to compete in a contest, it's good to visualize what you're going to do, how you're going to be, how you're going to win, and all this stuff. So I'm a big believer in visualization. Martin Bozilov. Have I ever trained for pure strength? No, I've never trained for pure strength, just because bodybuilding was my goal, and training for pure strength was not, going to be helpful for that goal. Although I trained in Birmingham back in the 80s, I trained in a gym in Birmingham called the Forum, which was a big powerlifting gym, and a lot of people used to come around there. Bill Kazmaier was there a lot, and he saw me training, and he was like very impressed with how strong I was. He said I was much stronger and training much heavier than the bodybuilders in America. He kind of thought they were a bunch of panzers. That was his thing, but I was a real, so I kind of accepted by the powerlifters as well. I have respect from powerlifters because of the weights I used to use, where most bodybuilders don't, because they use lighter weights and do more pumping. Somebody, Ramil Javier, assuming you didn't win those 6-handers, who do you think, in your opinion, would have dominated the Mr. Olympia competition? Well, just take me off the result board, man, and you see who was second all the time. It was never the same person. Sean Ray was second to me twice. Flex Wheeler was second to me once, and I think Nasser was second to me once, and Kevin was second to me once. So it could have been Flex, it could have been Sean Ray, it could have been Nasser, it could have been Kevin. It could have been, I don't think anyone would have dominated out of those guys, because it could have changed from year to year, as did the second place. So I don't think anyone would have dominated going on those results. Nafis Ahmed, hi Dorian, you train heavy throughout your career. Do you have any long-term injury like Ronnie Coleman? Well, fortunately, I don't have any spinal injuries, which is Ronnie's problem. Perhaps because I didn't do those heavy squats. I stopped squatting quite early, so I was training legs without doing the heavy squats. And Ronnie was doing like powerlifting strength moves while he was on a contest diet, getting ready for Mr. Olympia. I really think that was not wise at all, and there was no point to do it. So yes, I have some injuries. I have a torn rotator cuff on the left shoulder. Of course, I tore my bicep and my tricep, which makes them weaker. And because the left shoulder is missing supraspinatus, the right shoulder does too much work, and I get a bit of pain there. So that's why I'm not training heavy now, because I've done what I need to do in bodybuilding. I don't want to be, when I get older, that I cannot, throw a ball or something like this. I like to be active. I love to go hiking in the mountains. I like swimming. I like riding my bike. I like doing all those things. So for me, it would be a nightmare if I had some spinal problem or something. I couldn't move properly. So I'm really grateful that I don't. I have some shoulder injuries, and it's very difficult for me to train upper body with any kind of weights. I mean, I literally cannot bench press even 60 kilos. I can't bench press that because the shoulder's too weak. So I do what I can do, and now, it doesn't bother me really, because having huge upper body muscles is not really important for me now. It's important for me to be cardiovascular fit and active and mobile. So I'm happy with that. Tim Shelton thinks I'm handsome. Well, thank you, Tim. I prefer it if your name was Tina than Tim, but all right, I'll take the compliment. Rami, you keep asking me the same thing. How to get big legs? All right, how to get big legs? Do leg extensions, a couple of sets to warm up, and then a set to absolute failure with a training partner if you can, giving you force reps. And, you know, I'm talking about absolute failure, guys. A lot of people come to train with me and they think they've failed, and then I get them to do another 2 or 3 reps. So failure is sometimes just in your mind, yeah? So physical failure. After that, I would move on to leg press. I would do again 1 or 2 sets to warm up there before you get on your maximum set. And then again to failure, 10 to 12 reps. And finish with the squat on a Smith machine or a hack squat. 1 warm-up set there because you're already down warm at that point. You don't need 2 warm-up sets. And 1 set to failure. Then you should be having real difficulty standing up and breathing and knowing what is your name. If you don't, then you're not training hard enough. Yeah? If you don't feel like you're going to puke, you're not training hard enough. Have a little rest. Do 2 or 3 sets of leg curls. The last one to failure. 2 sets of calf standing to failure. And 1 set of CT calf raise to failure. Should be done with all that in about 40 minutes max. You're going to need to rest longer between the sets on legs because you need to recover your oxygen depth. So anyway, briefly, that's it. Daniel Dobrovics. What's the best way to strengthen the lower back? Well, I always like deadlifts, but I do them at the end of the back workout, and I do them just kind of from mid-shin and up. So I don't put them on the floor because the initial lift from the floor is a lot of quads, hamstrings, and glutes. So I do like to mid-shin level and up. And I also do hyperextensions using body weight. So those 2 are great for your lumbar region. Anyway, guys, I've just been told we've been here for an hour now, so we're going to kind of wind it up. This is the first Q&A we've done live on Facebook. I don't know if we'll be on Facebook next time or Instagram, but anyway, I'll be doing regular, probably twice a month. So you can come on and ask all the questions. And as I said, it can be on anything you like, it can be bodybuilding or not bodybuilding. I'm quite happy to talk about whatever you want. So thank you very much for coming on here. Hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. And I will see you on the next one, guys. And go check out everything at dynutrition.com, all the new products and so on in the shadow line. Thank you very much, guys. Hope you have a great rest of the day, and I will speak to you soon. Cheers.